Hello. Since Trump entered office, the rapid fire strategies that he has been pursuing have been a clear indication that he's in the pursuit of change. However, when we look a bit deeper into this pursuit of change, it's often coming in the form of attacks against different groups of people or different aspects of the American system that Trump disagrees with. I think it's important that we ask ourselves these questions, namely who Trump is attacking and why. And from this, we can attempt to garner some conclusions and potential future directions that Trump wants to take the United States in. As I pondered this topic, I was reminded of a post that I wrote last August, where I explored the demographics in the United States, specifically the demographics behind the 2016 and 2020 elections, both of which Trump was a part of. From this analysis, it made it much easier to see who was Trump's typical voter. When we consider these attacks, I believe that many of these attacks are being directed at those who wouldn't typically vote for Trump. Many in the past have discussed Trump and his Machiavellian pursuits. When we focus on his areas of attack, this becomes ever clearer. So, where will this take us as we head further into Trump's term? Now, on the surface, this could seem like Trump is attacking without structure, but there are many reasons behind the directions of his attack. When I compared the voting percentages for the 2016 and 2020 elections, it was useful to assess the changes between the two elections, but more importantly, as I discussed in the introduction, it created a clear profile of Trump's typical voter. This profile was based on in what demographics Trump received the highest percentage votes, and this was a white, uneducated, religious, older, rural living male. Many of Trump's attacks have been directed at the opposite of each of these characteristics. So, to see how this is working, let's dive into the specific areas that Trump has been attacking. Firstly, let's start with Trump and his pursuit of deportations. Trump also currently has riots on his hands, as we've seen over in California. We've also seen the Supreme Court rule against many of these deportations, but the Trump administration has ignored them, sending many of these deportees to prisons in El Salvador. Trump has also allowed ICE to raid schools, hospitals, and religious buildings, and has issued the controversial Alien Enemies Act. To give a statistic, over 37,000 people were deported during Trump's first month back in office, and his efforts here are clearly persistent. Is all of this an effort to increase Trump's voter share? Secondly, Trump has been on the attack against education. Specifically, the Education Department, Harvard and Columbia have been his key targets. An executive order directed the Education Department Secretary Linda McMahon to dismantle the department. Importantly, the department upholds educational fairness for children of all races, religions, and sexual orientations. So, with the dismantling of the Education Department, students will be less protected. Trump has also threatened to redirect $3 billion in Harvard research funding to vocational schools, which again is another way in which Trump is attempting to reinvigorate US manufacturing. He has also suspended visas for foreign students at Harvard and has accused them of financial links to China and anti-Semitism on campus via protests that have occurred against the war in Gaza. Colombia has had its accreditation threatened due to, quote, deliberate indifference towards the harassment of Jewish students, and 400 million in federal grants and contracts have been cancelled. The Trump administration also went after Mohsen Madawi and Mahmoud Khalil, Palestinian students at Columbia who participated in protests against the war in Gaza. A request to temporarily stop Mahmoud Khalil's deportation was denied by a district judge, and Mohsen Madawi was arrested in April in what he believed would be a citizenship interview. Even if many of these rulings and policies that Trump has pursued were challenged, would students from abroad want to learn in such a volatile, uncertain environment? Also, would Americans want to learn in such a place where their school life can be upended overnight? Especially when their futures are under the whims of Trump and his rapid-fire aggressive policy. Returning to Trump's typical voter, the highest proportion of Trump's voters are high school educated or lower. So is this potentially why Trump is going after higher education? Now, when I discussed Trump's typical voter, I stated that older and rural citizens were typically a part of his voter share. But I think it's worth considering what Trump has done for his older voters and his rural voters. Is it here where Trump has actually caused some damage? We are seeing tariffs and deportations hurting agriculture, but Trump seemingly does have a plan for this because he wants to increase the exports of American food to other countries around the world. But with all the additives put into American foodstuffs, who would want to import US food? We also see people from rural backgrounds typically having a lower GDP per capita than those from urban backgrounds. Trump has pursued some strategies to support them, including no tax on earnings from overtime, no tax on Social Security, or tips. This is likely because he recognises that inflationary spikes could be seen in some industries due to Trump's tariff policy. But at the same time, he's also hurting those from lower income backgrounds. His Big Beautiful Bill will see those who earn less than $51,000 a year actually pay more after income tax. And as a part of the bill, Trump has also cut many safety nets for low-income citizens. Overall, there are more negatives than positives here. As for older generations, the economy is a big issue for them. They typically want to be certain that they will receive pension payments when they need them, and that they can maintain the level of savings that they possess. So they were likely quite unhappy when the stock market was volatile and the S&P 500 dropped rather dramatically a few months ago, but we are now back above 6,000 on the S&P. One aspect here that could play to Trump's advantage is that older voters typically are seen as more likely to maintain their voting patterns. So this could be an area where Trump maintains voter support, but as long as the economy stays relatively stable and payments keep coming. Finally, not just from Trump's second term, but for decades, we've seen what kind of character he is when it comes to his treatment of women. Trump has also attacked transgender people, and he has made many anti-LGBTQ moves since his inauguration for his second term. So, one reason that I want to discuss these areas of attack specifically is because if this is maintained over the next 4 years of Trump's term, then this is going to lead to dramatic changes in American society. The evidence of this is already clear to see, even after a few months, but what changes will this lead to in the long term? And what is the grand reasoning behind these assaults? Is it more than Trump wanting to alienate his atypical voter. Trump's rapid-fire headline-driving policy decisions are indicative of a strategy in which Trump seeks to strike quickly against his enemies. Then they have no time to regain their balance, they're stunned, and when they finally find themselves on steady ground, it's too late and the changes have already been made. This has led to Trump's strategy of attacking his enemies within America, with the overarching aim of restructuring society and overseeing fundamental change. This has also been seen in his Make America Great Again strategy. Now, societal change is so difficult because people dislike change, so typically this isn't well received. This is why Trump is attacking those who are bound to disagree with him, while still trying to keep his voter base on board with some preferential treatment. If this didn't work and Trump didn't keep his voter base on side, then he does risk alienating some of his voters. But if he pursues all these changes quickly, he can then attempt to address the wounds that have formed over the time that he has remaining in his term. At least this is the general idea behind such an approach that Trump is in pursuit of. But this is all in theory. We do have to consider Trump's personal incentives. He is a man full of vanity, so does he want this for the betterment of the United States, or does he want this for the betterment of himself? Many have discussed before Trump and his Machiavellian playbook. Does Trump see himself as the prince of American politics? Importantly, The Prince, by Machiavelli, details the individual's pursuit of power and control. According to Machiavelli, lies can sometimes be necessary, and bullying to get what one wants isn't frowned upon. This is Trump's exact strategy. It's spelt out word for word in a guide to political leadership that was released centuries ago. We've seen Trump's aims to garner more individual power and control through his attacks on aspects of the American system that are independent, such as the judiciary and the Federal Reserve. The question, in my opinion, then becomes, if Trump is seeking more power and control, what is he going to do with it? It's clear, as is one of the biggest conclusions from The Prince, that if a politician has to choose between being feared and being loved, Trump will be attempting to be feared. It's not just the United States that we see this in today either. If we look around world politics today, we are surrounded by such leaders. These leaders maintain power and control through more authoritarian stances, and in our world today, this power is pursued far more than morality. In times of rising geopolitical tension, such as we're living through today, realism and the pursuit of power are clear to see. Power recognises power, and if power smells weakness, it pounces to take advantage. In times of less geopolitical tension, there is more room for idealist cooperation, and morality can lead to advantageous situations for all. However, this isn't the world we live in today. For many, this puts us at the whims of powers that are far greater than ourselves, and I question if we will one day transition from this realist world to one where idealism, morality, and peace can lead to the betterment of all. Perhaps one day, but this current world that we're living through doesn't strike me as one that will be heading in such a direction in the near term. So, to conclude, Trump will continue his attacks against his enemies, and he will seek to find more control and power within the United States. This will come in the rapid bursts of policy decisions as Trump attempts to change the system before anybody can realise it. Over 4 years, this could lead to massive societal changes, and Trump will attempt to secure his version of the Republican Party as one that will control the United States for many years to come. He has even stated that he would be interested in pursuing a third term, but JD Vance would likely be equally committed to such a strategy. Trump wants to be one of the greatest presidents in history, and as a part of this, he's willing to play the role of a prince. I've been Dylan. I'll talk to you next time.